everyone. Today I will explain you how to solve linear equations with variable in one side. Remember, we represent linear equations with weights scale. In this case, represent the variable x plus 2 because this value we don't know, but we already know that this scale is balanced. So the equation that represents this scale is x plus 2 equals to 7. So what do you have to do if you want to find or if you want to identify what is the value for this x? So because remember, the x can represent any value, but in this case we are going to try to identify the specific value, and for this procedure we are going to use the inverse operation. Remember, the inverse operation is if we have a positive we change as a negative. The negative is positive, multiply to divide and divide to multiply. Keep on mind this property, inverse operation. So the first things that we are going to do when we need to try to solve linear equations is to use the inverse operation and to isolate the formula. Isolate means leave alone our variable, in this case the variable x. So what do we have to do as a first step? In the first step, if you have to copy the variable x, then the equal sign and the number 7. And we are going to apply the inverse operation with the number 2. If the number 2 is positive, we are going to move to the other side as a negative number. So this, we are going to have x equals 7 minus 2. Why minus 2? Because this is positive, and remember the inverse of operation positive, it's negative, or it's addition, it's subtraction. Then after this one we are going to subtract 7 minus 2, or it's a the like terms because both are constant. 7 minus 2 is equals to 5, and we already solved this equation and we already know that this is x equals to 5. What represents this 5? The number 5 represents this unknown quantity. If you substitute this 5 instead of x, we are going to have 5, 6, 7. And in the other side we have 7, and we keep the scale balanced. In the second one we have x plus 3 equals to 7, which is the equation that represents this model. So what do we have to do? Apply the inverse operation with a positive 3. So first step is to copy the variable x here, and then we are going to apply the inverse operation with a positive 3. X is going to be 7, and this case is positive 3. Applying the inverse of positive, it's negative, and it's going to be 7 minus 3. Then we are going to subtract 7 minus 3, and it's going to be x equals to 4. And now we already know that the value for x applying linear equation is x equals to 4. If you replace this 4 instead of this x, we are going to have 4 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 7. And in the other side we have 7, so that means that we have the equations balanced. So the value for x is equals to 4, and in this one the value for x is equals to 5. Now we are going to solve another exercise, and first one we have y minus 5 equals to 12, and then we are going to prove this one. So what do we have to do with this? First we are going to copy the variable y equal 12, and then the inverse of negative 5, negative, it's positive, so we are going to convert this negative 5 into positive 5 when we move to the other side, and we are going to have y is equals 12 plus 5. Then we solve this one, 12 plus 5, which is 17, and we already know the value for this variable, which is 17. If you want to prove this equation, we are going to copy y minus 5 equals to 12, but we already know in the first step that the value for y is 17. So what do we have to do? 17 minus 5 equals to 12. We are going to replace. Then we have 12 equals to 12. Now we have that this 17 makes true our equation. Then c minus 34 is equals to 40. The first step is to isolate. Remember, this word is so important in this topic. Isolate, to leave a number variable. It's going to be 40. This is negative 34 minus, we convert into positive in the other side, plus 34. Then we are going to have C equal to 74. And this value makes through our equation. So what do we have to do now? We are going to prove 874 is the correct value for the variable. So what do we have to do in the other step? C minus 34 is equals to 40. Now we already know that the value for C is 74. So what do we have to do in this step? We are going to replace the C instead of 74. Minus 34 equal to 40. Then we are going to have 40 equal to 40. And we already know that the value for C is 74. Why? Because when we prove, we keep the equality. So remember, it's so important to apply the inverse operation. This is negative. We convert into the other side as a positive number.